Our guest is in the ether. But good evening, one and all, no matter what platform you are watching on. Welcome to this edition of Chasing Dissent After Dark with myself, Ben, my co-host, John, and once again, down there for you guys, we have David Nolan of StopCommonPass.org coming to talk to us about all things treatment passports, digital IDs, and the like. So, good evening, David, and welcome to Chasing Dissent After Dark.
Good evening, Ben. Good evening, John. It's great to be with you guys once again. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure as always.
Well, absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We've done it so many times now that it's like a walk in the park. John, how are you this evening?
I am hot, sweaty, troubled, disappointed. Did I go on?
So he's grumpy, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a grumpy John. But John, let's face it, man. You're always grumpy, and that's why they love you. Yeah. So, David, I'm going to make a statement here that might seem quite hyperbolic, right? But it looks like, for the most part, we seem to have defeated the treatment passports. What would you say to that?
I would say that we are we're in a relatively good place right now. I mean, in terms of the NHS COVID pass for international travel, it looks like it's staying put until probably around mid 2023. I'm hoping that it's going to be pulled a lot earlier in the same fashion like the domestic was when it was announced by Boris Johnson. It was in around the 8th or 9th of February, and then Grant Shapps, DFT, Department of Transport, pulled it. They revoked the legislation, thank God, on the 18th of March. So everything was well. There still is the threat, I feel, at the moment, of the domestic NHS COVID pass. I mean, something like that can be quite easily reactivated. It's just a piece of software on the NHS app. It's been revoked for the moment, but what really kind of gets my eyebrows up, guys, is that well, I mean, not only are the governments, of course, they be stonewalling me. They're ignoring communications from Stop Common Pass. I mean, we've contacted the Department of Health and Social Care, for a very clear answer. I mean, it is quite, I guess it's quite humorous, isn't it? It's like asking for a definitive answer from governments on whether this is it, that the domestic NHS COVID pass is completely kaput. I mean, the good sign is that we've known since early July, thanks to a question that was it was a WPQ, a written parliamentary question, was put through by Andrew Rosendale MP. He's conservative, and he asked DHSC about the amount of people that they've got working on the NHS COVID pass at present. It's roughly around the number of 35. That was given by the Parliamentary Under Secretary. Her name is Maggie Throop. This wasn't done in Parliament. It was all through a written parliamentary question, the WPG. So people can find that online. It's in the public domain. So It looks like we're looking at a steady wind down of the COVID passes, and a line being drawn under it by the 31st of March 2023. Of course, these things are subject to change, and the governments have already said via NHS Digital that that even though the domestic COVID pass has been pretty much it's been revoked since the 12th of May, thankfully, that was great news, that it's something that they have looked at ways in which they could rapidly reintroduce it, if as they say, the COVID-19 pandemic situation changes, or there's the presence of a new variant and so forth. But right now, it's 50-50, but we appear to be on a good track heading towards next year. But I guess the next 4 to 6 months is going to be quite telling. Unfortunately, I like you guys and a lot of others out there listening, and watch or listen to this podcast don't really trust these people at all. We don't trust them as far as we could throw them. And like I said, they could tap a button and reactivate this piece of software on the NHS app. It's not that hard to do. So, for the next 4 to 6 months, anything is possible.
Yeah.
I have a question on a related topic.
Oui, monsieur.
So, I made a video recently about Mianzi, or face, as it's known by us. So this is the Chinese that they're very conscious of how they appear to their peers and to their friends and family and business associates, and everything in China kind of revolves around face. And if you lose face, then you will do everything you can to get it back. And as I was making this video, I thought this is probably why the Chinese social credit system works so well, because the Chinese are used to this. And if they get their picture put up somewhere and said, this person's been a bad boy or a bad girl, and then they will do everything they can to try and get back in the good books. Now, my thought is that kind of system's not going to work as well in the West, because many of us really don't care what people think about us, do we? I don't.
No, I'll interject, John, very quickly in that. I mean, and I'm sure people will understand what I'm saying with this. What you were talking about there is a thing called psychosocial pressure as well. You're looking at kind of, public shaming to a degree, a form of digital public shaming. Like, they might as well get someone out in the street and put them in the stocks for the day, or whip them or something. But digitally speaking, I mean, that's what they're doing. The South Asian, Southeast Asian, and East Asian mindset is very different in its ways as compared to the Western European democracies, for example. Now, I don't want anyone breathing down my neck or your guys, necks for saying this. I think there's a lot of common sense involved in this. People are reasonably well traveled. You will notice that in these particular areas, they are much more compliant and fearful of government, much more obedient and compliant in this extent. So, I mean, the uptake of, say, for example, with vaccine passports, the embracing of technology over the past 2 years, especially in the wake of COVID-19, has been understandably higher in these regions. So Taiwan, South Korea, for example, they were just covered, left, right, and center, like digitally speaking. The vast majority of citizens did not have an issue. Yeah. With that, the amount of dissenters would have been minimal to a degree. So yes, you have this quite different mindset between kind of East Asia versus Western European democracy. So yes, you would get a lot more pushback from our end here, and it's been very interesting because, of course, over the past 12 to 24 months, it's been very interesting looking at European quote unquote democracies and see who's been kind of pushing back harder, not so much, and how far the authorities have been kind of weighing in terms of like lockdown policies, but the implementation of this technology as well. But they don't have to push it as far in these as I said, Southeast and East Asian nation states, because the general acceptance is very high surrounding government and these policies.
Basically, the government says jump to these people, and they say how high, and people shouldn't be breathing down on us for saying that, because it's absolutely bloody true. It's borne out in reality. So,
shut up.
But sorry, John, did I answer that well enough for you? Well, I think was there anything else you?
That was fine. That was cool. Sorry, I'm just laughing at my own mischief making.
Did you press the
button? No. I thought there was something else that I could have kind of added on to that.
Press this button.
Don't laugh. Why you are laughing? Shut up.
He's
Shut
got
up.
a new toy, right? Since you've last been here, David, things have changed quite dramatically. We're doing
Yes, there's a lot of in-jokes that I don't get.
but
Yeah, that's right.
it's not just that. Like the whole setup's changed, the quality's growing, the way things look
It's
is
fantastic.
changing.
Yeah.
And John got himself a new toy, didn't you, John?
Yes, I did.
Do you want
I
to
You got some hotkeys.
Talk for it.
Yeah.
they're not hotkeys. They're he spent a lot more
It's
money
not
than
a
just setting up
roadcaster.
hotkeys.
Yeah, it's called a Roadcaster Pro, so it replaced my old Behringer mixer, and it does everything, and it's so much better, isn't it? Because it does all the processing inside it, and then puts it out to the screen.
Behringer is a fantastic German brand. Yeah.
So
yeah.
put it this way, David. When we see something like a passing away, for example, that can't be explained, I can now just sort of start thinking,
You know what it is!
and you
Is
know,
that you, Ben?
Yeah, yeah, it was.
That's
So yeah, I can see Jessie is laughing her head off over there. That's good to see. But yeah, John, give me a bit of Gettr before we move on, would you?
How dare you!
Thank you, John.
fantastic.
Yeah, we're having a lot more fun over here, David. We're trying to entertain people as well as give them the. I was speaking to because I kind of invaded your Twitter space the other night, didn't I?
That was great. Thank you for invading. It was great.
No, it was good fun, but like I said to you there, what we're trying to do now here is make people smile, make them laugh, but also give them good information and make them think. Because even if they don't like what we're saying, even if they don't agree with what we're saying, maybe they come away from what we've done with a smile, and maybe that makes them think. Maybe that, who knows, but we've been doing this, and you and I have been having conversations for over 1.5 years now, right? And we've been doing this for 2.5 years, pretty much all told. And one thing I've learned is people don't want to be told they're wrong. They really don't want to be told they're wrong, especially straight to their face. So if they are wrong,
people.
Huh? What's that?
Especially Chinese people.
Well, yes. Well, no. Let me say, especially Chinese government authority figures, Chinese citizens. You say that, but
they don't want to be told they're wrong either.
Yeah, but like David just said, if their government tells them they're wrong and they must do
but
something else, they'll do it.
Yeah, but they don't tell them they're wrong. What they'll do is they'll tell them they're doing wrong.
Okay.
They'll not tell them that they're wrong.
So anyway, let's move on. And
I didn't get that, John. I didn't hear that one. You might have to play that again.
Asshole.
Okay.
China is asshole.
I'm going to regain my composure just for a second here.
Come back to me, you know.
I'm back, right? I'm back. And I've put myself in big screen, John, so they can't see you anymore. But my question is this, right? Now that we seem to be winding down with treatment passports, COVID status certification and the like, we're not out of the woods in any way, shape or form, are we, David?
No, I mean, this sort of thing is being repurposed. I mean, there's massive digital transformation goals which became apparent as a result of the pandemic, or the scamdemic, if you want to call it that. I mean, it really became more apparent in I guess probably the first 6 months or so of 2021. Government started to talk a lot more about increasingly more about the digitization of our lives. So not just in terms of health and everyone who's over 18 just casually having the NHS app on their mobile phone. I mean, the former incumbent, Sajid Javid, he said before his exit, and Steve Barclay, the Minister for Health, took over in the UK, that they're looking at around 70% of those 18 and over just having the NHS app on their mobile phone device. But not just that. I mean, the ever-increasing presence of digital wallets coming online as well. We will be seeing that in the UK shortly, certainly at some point.
Well, people have been
next
being
year.
trained for digital wallets with things like Google Pay and Apple Pay and things like that. So,
Which has been around for some time. Yeah, it
Yeah.
has been indoctrinated, in people for quite some years now. And again, of course, COVID-19 was super aggressive indoctrination. It was abusive, of course. In terms of, Patrick Vallance, who's left his position now, to go and enjoy £600,000 worth of shares and more with GlaxoSmithKline,
yes,
and the rest.
And the rest.
He spoke about going hard and going early, and I think I said this to you chaps during a previous show, that this is not always, you can attribute that to more than just the virus, but across the general kind of populace with really what they're trying to push. We also have not only a gov.uk app, which is going to offer hundreds upon hundreds of services for people at the touch of a button on the mobile device, but this thing called One Login, and the first 5 parts of that service, we don't know them all, but some of them, the first 5 are going to go live this September. So we get a huge push from the GDS, the government digital service in the UK. But it's all very synchronized, very coordinated, not just within the United Kingdom, but within the greater European community and internationally as well. So there does seem to be some blueprint, or so to speak, heading towards 2024. But then the next massive checkpoint is 2030. So it's full steam ahead. So whilst a lot of things are going to settle and go back to normality, in terms of no domestic COVID passes, no international restrictions, I think that's really when the hard work really gets going, because we really do need to retain the status quo in terms of fighting off this digitization of our lives. Because if that particular pendulum swings too far to the right in this respect, I'm not speaking kind of like politically to the right here, but in terms of the digitization of our lives, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because it's very evident that there is a form of China light, LITE, that is kind of immersing itself in Europe and beyond right now. I guess one hot example of that was, this headline was around for the past couple of days, but it started to gain traction over the past 24 to 48 hours, where in Germany, the health minister announced a color-coded system to their Corona Warn app. And it's very, very similar to what China are doing. And that kind of ties into another story a couple of months ago, where some protesters, let's just say the local government in that area, with its AI tech, its cameras, they were able to individually pick off and slow down a small bunch of protesters. I think it was about 20 to 30 from going outside a particular bank in that province that they were having a lot of issues with their with holding onto their cash. I don't have that article in front of me right now. One of you guys might be able to bring that up. John, I know you'll probably get it in seconds, or you, Ben. But they turned their health code from green to either amber or red. So they weren't able to authenticate, get the QR code scanned, authenticated to get onto public transport unless they were traveling there privately by car. So, but one of the most, I guess, concerning, chilling, frightening aspects of that is how the local government, with the use of AI technology within the cameras, were able to cross-check and reference individual citizen information, pick them off one by one, and have the ability to basically force their health code on their actual device. So if you think about what they'd actually have to go through to collate, to aggregate and get that information at relative speed, and make it very hard for that individual to travel, that is something that could happen to us in the future if we don't grab this by the throat. That's what I'm saying. There certainly is the threat of something like that happening down the line.
Have you ever seen the TV series Person of Interest?
I've heard of it. Can't say I've seen it, John.
So it's old now, but it's probably worth a look because it very much deals with everything that's kind of going on. There's some sort of overarching, computer system that ties into everything and has surveillance and can find things very, very quickly and track people down. They're using it for good, but the government are trying to use it for evil. That's the kind of tagline.
Well, you've got to remember, we are already one of the most surveilled countries on Earth. I mean, you can't step a foot in London without being caught on a CCTV camera, and I'm sure other big cities are exactly the same. And
Scotland's got more than anyone.
Well,
and
there we go.
It's all run by a country in the Middle East.
There we go.
Very interesting. Yeah.
There we go. But the thing is, we have normalized the idea of surveillance, right? And let's even look at, for example, these new shops that Amazon have set up, that Sainsbury's have set up, where you can go in, just put things in your bag and walk out, right? But every inch of that shop is covered with cameras from every angle to make sure that the system is correctly checking what you've put in your bag / taken off the shelf. And people are using that like it's nothing. We've normalized the idea of surveillance, and to me, when you think about it, it's absolutely terrifying. But not only that, we keep getting the same argument from people, which is also terrifying, by the way, because this is something propaganda, I would say, that's been drilled into them. Well, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear.
Yeah, we discussed that before, and John brought up that was something that originated from the early 1900s, and it was Joseph Goebbels, the father of Nazi propaganda, that popularized that. Well, you've nothing to fear, you have nothing to hide. Now open up the floorboards. I want to find the people.
Yeah.
And that is constantly used. I think a lot of people parrot that. They don't know the origins of it. And Edward Snowden spoke about this as well. And to paraphrase him, he said, saying that, if you've nothing to fear, nothing to hide, is similar to saying like, well, I don't care about free speech, so I've got nothing to say, so that really kind of hits home when you look upon it like that. But yes, the normalization of surveillance capitalism, I mean, it shouldn't be normal. It's abnormal, and this is something which will continue to be pushed as normal as we head towards the next checkpoint of 2030. We are being told, through messaging by the likes of the World Economic Forum, you've got to really pay attention to the collective language that is being used, by these various organizations, from the WEF to the Tony Blair Institute, the Global Change Institute, Global Institute, beg your pardon, about certain things being inevitable and being inclusive. It's the usual thing. We're trying to help you. We are trying to protect you from fraud. It's not all of this digitalization is not stopping the fraudsters. I mean, there's been a massive ransomware attack on the NHS over the past couple of days to a week, and they're still getting over it. This happened back in my own homeland of Ireland last year in our health service executive, the HSE for short. And, our health system was crippled for many, many weeks after that. I don't think the ransom ended up being paid. That's what you were not supposed to pay the ransom to before the... Yes, because then they'll kind of continue to act like this with other targets. But the greater governments centralize and honeypot our personal data like that, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these attacks are going to become bigger and more frequent into the future as well. So the government's various public-private institutions, they are putting us at risk. That's really where we kind of have to push back.
I want to bring in
also,
John here, because
there's something else going on that I found quite disturbing today, and I think maybe history is being rewritten as we sit.
I agree with this, by the way.
Discuss it. I haven't actually discussed this with Ben, but today I was making a video, as sometimes we do, to put up on YouTube, and I spend a lot of time researching and digging through, Google's and DuckDuckGo, Brave Search, everything, to find information. And I was looking for I was looking for total deaths by any cause throughout the years in the UK, and I can't find the graphs anymore. They've all gone. I could find loads of stuff to do with a certain virus, right? But I couldn't find anything to do with all-cause mortality by year on the internet. Now, I did not dig into the ONS data, where I could have gone in and created it myself from their, downloads. But before, I could just go on and find a graph of the ONS data, and somebody'd already done it. So I actually went back on my phone because I thought I already had this, and I went back through my records of photographs or screenshots that I'd put up on other platforms before, and I found all the information I was looking for on my phone, but couldn't find it on the internet. Quite interesting, I thought.
I'm going to jump in there.
I even turned off, the strict search, and do not search for hot if you're at your work.
No, but I'm going to jump in there, because it's not just with things like this that I would agree that you're right, John. Many places history is being rewritten. Let's just go back to what we were talking about the other night, Dick Turpin, for example.
Yeah.
Right. So the Dick Turpin, it's a statue, right? And they want the name Dick replaced with Richard because they can't handle the word Dick in their university. It's little things like that rewrite history. And whilst now at the moment we would find that stupid, 40, 50 years down the line, it's Richard Turpin. It's it's little rewritings of history that are happening left, right, and centre, and we're supposed to just sit there and go, okay, this is fine. Like, even the Colston statue, right, being chucked into the harbour because he was this, that, or the other, was a slaver. He still built the town. He's still, history's not going to change that he was the biggest donor to things in the town, and these people want to just simply remove him because it doesn't suit their agenda. And we're seeing that all over the place, and not just to do with that, to do with everything. And it's kind of terrifying, guys.
It is.
Looks like I've killed the conversation. I can apologise. I can only apologise for that. But I saw David's face there when I spoke about Dick Turpin. He was like, "What?"
Yeah, well, they're just taking offence to anything these days, I guess. It's like you really kind of know it's end times when they're getting offended by Richard's kind of shortened name. It's ridiculous.
Me and John, we've got something to say to the chat and to everybody, and we say this pretty much on every show. You will know it's the end times when you see dogs and cats fucking each other in the streets. That's it. We're in the end times, right?
That's why this is called Chasing Dissent After Dark, yeah?
Yes, and we're close. We're close. I'm telling you.
Oh, we're definitely close.
You're edging. You're peaking, yeah?
Yeah,
I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures.
Oh, good God. I mean, every time I'm in the streets now, I'm looking around going, is it going to happen today? Is it going to happen tomorrow? Matt Miller Rice in the chat says, history for a reason, you learn from it. Erase history, nothing to learn from.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's the problem, because people don't learn from history. Because they're repeating the same things that we've always done.
Yeah.
Every civilization just seems to repeat the same things that brought down the previous civilization, and we're doing it again.
The past is the key to understanding the present. I think that would certainly, we could agree on that, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you, because it is... I have to be so careful with my words because we're on YouTube, but we have seen terrifying control mechanisms that have been seen in other places before over the last 2.5 years. I have seen some very German health passes from before time, shall we say. This sort of thing has been done before, and we don't learn, because look at what they did to the untreated for the last year and a half, 2 years. They were persecuted. They were maligned. You know, they were called everything under the sun, and we just sat there and took it. But I don't know, guys.
I'm still waiting to find out what Weetabix head Andrew Neil wants to do with us. Well, it's a lot more than 5 million refuseniks.
Well,
you know, it's roughly around 16 million after you do the figures.
Well, I think the worst offender was Jeremy Vine. Got you there, didn't I? Jesus. The worst offender for all of this, I think, that had a mainstream platform was Jeremy Vine and some of his vile guests. And they essentially wanted to put us in camps, David.
Yeah, that sounds like something that Benjamin Butterworth would say. Did I say his name?
Nobody's brought up Black Gary yet.
Yeah, well, we haven't got to our mate Black Gary, John. But Black Gary, do you remember when our mate Black Gary got caught in a shop without a mask on?
Yeah.
David's going, who's Black Gary? Gary Lineker.
Right, gotcha now. Yeah, gotcha. The memes were fantastic regarding Gary and all that debacle a couple of weeks ago. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's our mate Black Gary.
Are you sure you're not going to be censored for saying that? Are you sure someone's not going to get offended?
No, they can get offended. They can get offended if they like, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's the one. He's the one that said he got racist abuse. He said it. So we're just affirming him. That's all we're doing.
We did a whole episode on. Well, we didn't do a whole episode, but we did an episode that featured Japanese blackface.
Yeah, we did.
Not for the faint-hearted or the easily offended by the sounds of it. I missed that one.
In Japan, there is a whole trend of people that do nothing but blackface. It's a trend.
They're into it. And then we went into the whole racism endemic in Southeast Asia because Japan and China just hate foreigners. They're not interested in foreigners at all. And they're quite explicit about it. You know, they're quite upfront about it, especially in China.
We cover everything on this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And China is very. This is the thing that I don't understand because they're very active in Africa. You know, with their Belt Initiative, and they're doing a great job because they're putting in infrastructure, and of course the Africans love this because instead of just saying things and then giving money to the corrupt officials, they're actually putting in infrastructure, but they're using their own people to do it.
Yes,
they hate black people. They really do. So
I'll give you an example to affirm his position. Do you remember the film Star Wars: The Force Awakens? Right. So Star Wars: The Force Awakens, their posters were only allowed in China if they reduced the size of the black lead actor and put him in the back because he was on the floor with the lightsaber on the poster. China wouldn't allow it. They couldn't have the black guy up front. So they made Disney reduce the size of him and put him in the background rather than in the foreground. Simply for being black.
They are racist. And they will admit it if you ask them. Because, you know, they don't like fat people either. They'll point at fat people.
Well, we're screwed then. We're screwed.
Oh, yeah, we are. But they'll point at fat people on the street and mock them. I mean, remember, I stayed in Hong Kong for 2 years.
Yeah.
Luckily, I wasn't fat.
Right, I'm going to interject here at the halfway point and say, if you are still with us, thank you very much. And if you would like to continue to be with us, why not consider becoming a patron or indeed a subscribe star over at patreon.com/Chasing Dissent or indeed subscribestar.com/Chasing Dissent. And if you do take any of our levels, you get the after party perk. So on a Wednesday and a Sunday, after the show is finished, an exclusive link is posted to our members to come into the show. And you can come in on video chat, come talk to us and things like that every Wednesday, every Sunday. It's a laugh, it's a riot, and you can only do that if you become a subscribe star or a patron. So subscribestar.com/Chasing Dissent or indeed patreon.com/Chasing Dissent. And I think it's time, ladies and gentlemen, we got back on topic with our guest.
Yeah.
And
no free trials.
Let's
Yeah, I was just going to say, any questions from the chat?
the chat's just going. It's just going.
They're going for it. Oh, that's great. Fantastic.
Before we go back on topic, tell David what Disneyland did with Winnie the Pooh Land
What do you mean? With China?
in China. Yeah.
They didn't let them build the 100-acre wood because Winnie the Pooh is banned in China because people call Xi Jinping Winnie the Pooh. So they're not allowed any Winnie the Pooh content in their Chinese parks.
Wow, we get easily offended. Wow.
This is all true.
Interesting.
This is all true.
You know.
Oh, wrong one.
But anyway, back on topic.
Yeah, back on
CBDCs.
Stay on target.
Should we fear central bank digital currency?
I think, very interesting story that came out over the past week or so regarding Japan. I'm sure you guys saw this. It was certainly kind of circulating around the past week or so. So Japan have sidestepped central banking digital currencies for the meantime. They use a lot of cash still across all the age ranges, and especially, of course, understandably so, the older generations. I was on a Rick Munn earlier today on TNT, and I mentioned regarding, there's been some articles coming out. Even in Britain is far from being a cashless society. And this is a good sign. And it shouldn't be just, the inherent fear of the banks or, creeping recession that is kind of pushing people towards the ATMs. What I think is happening is that slowly but surely, citizens, people in society are starting to kind of like toss and turn into slumber and realize that there's something happening. There's a disturbance in the force, if you want to borrow from Star Wars here, and that something is not right, and that we've got to use it or lose it. We've got to keep on using as much cash as possible. Cash equals privacy equals power. And it's a fantastic tool in terms of pushing back against the total digitization of our lives. Yes. I mean, the extreme kind of pessimist kind of outlook of the future would be the complete, scuppering, the pulling of our current, fiat-based system, and doing a Control-Alt-Delete-Reset with something like a central banking digital currency, CBDCs, which would only be really effective if there is a state-mandated or state-issued digital national ID. However, that could also be done if a government, such as the United Kingdom government, could accredit certain third parties to become IDVTs. These verifiable providers, such as the likes of the YOTI, Y-O-T-I, or the post office. And there's heaps of companies, smaller companies, coming on board with this now, because there's a lot of money to be made from this due to the massive push that's been put on all things digital. I mean, fintech, the likes of Monzo and Revolut and Starling, they've been around for some time now. I mean, they're useful, but sorry, Ben, I know I'm going off regarding the CBDCs, but they will ultimately only work if there is a digital identity, if there is it's national digital ID, or if it is one of these verifiable digitally stamped providers on behalf of the UK government. So it's it can either swing one of two ways. Well, I really do feel that, especially with promoting greater use of cash, with Cash Friday, Cash Friday.
With your relatively large Twitter account, I think you do very, very well. And every Friday, Cash Friday, it's bloody brilliant, and keep it up.
No, people should do it. It feels better. I think it's just that you can. I said this with Rick earlier on TNT. Is that especially over the next couple of months with the cost of living, the cost of lockdown crisis. I mean, literally, the fear of CBDCs. It's not really going to be there. It's that people are going to be getting their coinage getting their notes
Yeah.
and sticking it into the brown envelopes, and they will operate their own type of kind of archaic system, if you want to call it that, because they're going back to basics. That's what works for them. It's tangible. They can see it, they can smell it, they can feel it. They're like, I feel safe and protected. You know, my money is not digitized. It's not within the grasp of the banks. You know, I can hide it like my grand did, or my great grand did, or great granddad did under the mattress, kind of years and years ago. You know, and so yeah, I really do feel that kind of, you know, onwards into the future. Like we've really got to have a type of hybrid situation where we continue to push and promote the use of cash, as well as trying to kind of like face off the kind of the greater digitization of money and identity as well. So I mean, in essence, there's going to be so much revolving around this, you know.
I was going to say, I've got Soram and Shalini both in the chat right now, who are making the point that so they're forced to use card if they want food at work, so their canteens are card only, and these sorts of situations, they worry me a little bit, because it is just another form of sort of programming, getting people used to it. For example,
school canteens, our kids as well, school canteens, biometrics, facial biometrics, you know, fingers, you know, thumbs, and yes. Going to be massive like push on that as well. Of course, you could link this up with LFT live facial, LFR live facial recognition as well. So you
also
know,
terrifying.
all of the tricks that they've got up their sleeves. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Sorry, they had a big push for smart schools when I used to work for the council, and they had a big push for smart schools, and Cisco were very keen to put kit in that were going to track people as they went in and out by their facial recognition. You know, so they wouldn't actually have to do anything. They just need to walk into the school and they'd be recognised as being there, and if they left, they'd be recognised as leaving. But it all came to naught because people became very opposed to it, and with good reason, I think. And
that wasn't in Motherwell, John, was it? Because I know there was a story.
That was in Ayrshire, but that was 10 years ago.
But I will say
I got it mixed up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, my small town here in Eastbourne, about how old am I now? 33 in a couple of weeks. Geez. But my small town, when I was 18 years old, we trialled a biometrics fingerprint system on the doors of all the bars and in some of the newsagents that was all linked up and together, and that led to now as well. But they did it for a few months where everybody could just input their fingerprint, and then you could go to the club, put in your finger, you could go to the shop and get alcohol and cigarettes if you input your finger, and thankfully it came to now. But these sort of biometric recognition, they're being normalised. Once again, I know I keep coming back to that word, normalised, but what people have to understand is the vast majority of people sit within that normalised state of mind. There are only a fair few of us that don't, and these people, they just go, well, this is giving me an easier life. This is giving me an easier life. And it's the same as, once again, got to be careful with my words. The last 2.5 years, people will go, oh, I'm going to put this thing on because it gives me an easier life, right? Not because I think it's going to do what they claim it's going to do, but because I want an easy life.
And strangely enough, it seems to be men mainly that go along with things first.
Well, if I've noticed anything in the last 2.5 years, a lot of the strong voices that came out of the gate were women. They were.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Correct. And more power to them. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And we've actually, me and David have struck up some personal friendships with some of these people, and they are strong, they are powerful, and they are wonderful people. But I take your point, John, that these, you know, people that go along with it are generally men first, because it's true.
Yeah. It's just anything for a quiet life.
Yeah. And
it's well, of course, it's like I just want an easy life. And you know, all this is convenient. Don't worry about your data. Don't be a bloody conspiracy theorist.
Absolutely.
You know, nothing to fear, nothing to hide. You'll have the same stuff parroted and, you know, reduced, reused, recycled, all of that. So well, that will just show you kind of how endemic, how deep the programming is. it's still in a lot of people in society. I mean, I travelled through London Stansted recently, and if you want to test, if you want to measure compliance, just I'm sure you guys may have picked up on this, like your watchers, your listeners have as well. That if you go to an airport, like the only time that you have to show your identity document, and maybe I bite my lip saying this, like a COVID document, like depending on where you're kind of like going. The only other time that you need to show your ID, like passport or identity card, is at the actual gate itself, if that's even checked alongside your boarding pass that's scanned under the Advanced Passenger Information Reader, the API. But you will find people in the security queue just after you've done like your bag check. They are willing to show anyone the passport identification. You can see them. You'll see them with it in their hands, with their boarding pass, or they're like literally, they are clutching the passport. And I observe this very, very frequently, like whenever I'm traveling, is that they seem to be kind of like stunned, kind of scared animals in these particular situations. And if anyone says boo to them, it's like, oh, here you go. Here, just take it. You know what I mean? I am no harm to you. The only time they have to show it is at check-in, and then at the actual like departure gate. Just to kind of like get an observation. It gives you an idea of the levels of compliance like within society. The thing is that the behavioral scientists and psychologists and people relatively high up in government, let's say Whitehall, for example, they know about this stuff. I mean, you had 20 plus million people in, I think it was in Q2 going into Q3 of 2021. As soon as the NHS COVID pass was introduced for domestic and international purposes on the NHS app, 20 plus million people they took it. Yeah,
I mean, it's like those. Remember those? Well, you don't remember them. They're still there. The backscatter and the microwave scanners at the airport. And
yes.
People just go through them without even a thought or a question. I've never been through one. And I never will go through one because they're dangerous.
Yeah, you can request a pat down. I mean, in the United States, like the TSA are absolutely fine. You can say, sorry, sir, I'd like a pat down. It's absolutely fine. In the UK, especially the London airports, they really don't like that when you kind of step into your power and say, well, I'm really concerned about the health ramifications. Yeah. That's my reason. I want a pat down. You know what I mean? That's what I want. That's what I'm going to get. And you can get quite mixed reaction in that regard from the UK border. For some very interesting stories, but you can push them for a pat down instead of going through the machines.
Yeah. When 100 physicists write to the president in America and say these things are dangerous and shouldn't be used, then you've got to take cognizance of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we have gone through, in the last kind of almost 2 years or just over 2 years now is the greatest kind of threat to our privacy, security, and civil liberties since 2001, because so many things began after. I'm not going to say the particular day or the particular.
Let me interject there, because during that
December.
I was going to say, during that particular day and month, I was actually...
Because I know you're on a certain platform and
yes.
algorithm, so...
I was transitioning in the air between the United States and the UK when certain things happened on that date.
I thought you were going to say something else there, Ben, in connection with maybe what's happened.
Because people would automatically think that you were maybe undergoing some kind of gender reassignment.
No. But no, I was actually
like these days, doesn't it? It's ridiculous. Yeah. What's the world come to?
I mean, I was in the air at that time, so we took off with American regular airport security pre that date, and then when we landed to British airport security having a bubble. That's all I can say.
Why were they searching you on the way out of the plane?
But they stopped everybody, and it was a very slow process getting out, right? But what we saw was, like you said, a massive increase in airport security. A massive increase. They told us it would be temporary, and it's only got worse.
But they told us income tax was only to pay for the Napoleonic Wars.
And it's only got worse.
Hasn't it?
I mean, it's an interesting one that you say at airports. So regarding all things like digital identity, that is something that certainly has been pushed kind of like pre-COVID, is that your face will be your passport, essentially. I posted up an article on stopcommonpass.org the other week regarding the EU. The European Commission are waiting to authorize the first, so passengers will be able to travel in this trial between one of the major airports in Finland and in the Balkans, in Croatia. Okay, they will be bringing a hard copy of their passport or ID card with them, but they will be. The whole test is to travel with just a form of digital identity. So you will have something verified on your mobile phone to show authorities, and to use this in conjunction with the e-gates. I find that sort of thing very concerning, especially if in the future that they do push some legislation surrounding this, because the way that this the smoke under the door goes with this, guys, is that the EU they want to really push this EID or EU digital wallet.
Yeah.
This is going to become more apparent
by
this time next year.
In 2020, when it came to massive amounts of control and travel, the e-gates kind of scuppered that, because we were being told to fill out passenger locator forms, weren't we? And so when I flew back from France in August of 2020, I just sort of hold on my walking stick through the e-gate and spoke to nobody and didn't fill out a passenger locator form. Whereas if I'd gone to the human being, they would have asked for it, I'd have had to fill it out. So the e-gates kind of scuppered. And then when they realised we were doing that, they shut them down very quickly. By the end of August 2020, no one was allowed to use the e-gates. And I'm going to punt it over to John, who's quietly got his hand up.
Well, Shalini's just said on the chat that there was a weird poster on the tube from HSBC a few years ago about your fingerprints being your identity.
There was.
So,
It's been there for quite some time. That's been there. I've seen that traveling through the London airports as far back as the probably 2008, 2009.
all over Glasgow Airport.
Yeah.
And still up.
Yeah.
And
it's a QR code as well, but it's like a QR code with the finger and the ink being there as well. So that, I'm not going to say that that's subliminal, but that's quite an overt form of, bragging indoctrination. It's like, you are going to have no choice no matter, this is what's going to be happening. And of course, this is coming from HSBC.
Let me just remind myself, what was the bank that was done for laundering drug cartel money?
Hong Kong, Shanghai Services, something. David Cameron's grandfather, I think, was involved in that as well. And there was drugs and all sorts of stuff many, many years ago. There's a couple of data, bites that people can go and research themselves. But
then we can also ask what company has had the largest criminal fine in history, and we know what that is, don't we, John?
Oh, yeah, big company. CEO.
A big company that likes to tell us what to do. Yeah, a big company that likes to tell us what to do.
So I was just saying, just to finish off. So that is the sort of the desired outcome by the likes of WEF and various other organisations, is that your face will be your passport, and it will be a very efficient, very handy, contactless experience. In this particular EU trial, I was saying. It would be something, so your digital identity would be forwarded onto the border prior to your departure. The biggest danger here, folks, is that it would be even easier at the drop of a hat, the tap of a button, for governments or other border parties to be able to revoke your access, to deny you entry. And if that became more extreme, it certainly could be a Black Mirror kind of nosedive, quote nosedive, was the name of the episode, situation where this could be tied around a social credit score. Again, it was very much out there, what Charlie Brooker kind of like, described, like very kind of like black humor, dark humor. But something like that could it be achieved?
You know, the thing about the thing about Charlie Brooker is he keeps giving them ideas.
Well, you see, where do these ideas come from? Because when you look back at all the movies, I mean, we are literally now living in science fiction movie come to life.
Yeah.
You know, where does Hollywood get these ideas, or do the government get the ideas from Hollywood? I don't know what's going on. That's all happened at that island where he didn't kill himself.
Look, I'm number 2, and I'm the one that's telling you all what to do, right?
I am not a number. I am a free man.
No, you're not, and that's the thing. As far as our authorities, our governments, our overlords are concerned,
I'm nearly there.
Numbers.
I'm probably as close. I'm as close to getting off grid as you can be without actually being off grid.
Yeah,
that's really good, John.
He's got a mobile. He's got a mobile.
I have no address.
It's lovely.
If you can get a bunker, John, I'll see you there, mate. Make room.
I mean, that's what I think we should do. Just build some kind of pit and build a nice bunker and just disappear ourselves from bloody society.
I was just going to finish off there, chaps. I was just going to finish off there, chaps, and say that, like, kind of part of the fight, part of the struggle is that we've, like I said, the whole hybrid thing. They are steamrolling digital identity in the wallets at. So the fight to retain the status quo, not just like cash, but these physical forms of identification as well. Because if legislation gets involved, if they revoke it in such a way, like say for example on like the London Transport for London system, where it's like one day it's like we'll take cash, the next day it's like you've just got to tap on like with your Oyster card, and that's the way it's going to be. And we're going to create like legislation surrounding that also as part of our conditions of carriage. This is something which has also happened in Greece recently as well. It will creep in via your driving license. So a form of digital ID will be accredited by the government, the Greek government in this example. It's not quote unquote mandated. It's not legislated for. It's not you still have the choice right now whether to use it or not. But they do have within the Greek legislation saying that form of verified digital identity is equal to that of what your passport is.
Yeah.
And of course, the big question that comes out of all of this is that if you are reliant on a smartphone, mobile device, if you don't have a backup, if you don't have a power bank with you, if it gets lost, slayed, stolen, something happens, you not only become like financially screwed in that particular position, you become stateless as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teething problems with this stuff.
You've got a long way to go though, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for getting in their face, because in France, even today, and Sweden, you can buy a car that you do not need a driving license for.
You can.
Now that's very interesting, because I know, John, obviously you've spent so much time in France and Sweden as well. So
yes,
wow,
you can.
I never knew that.
You buy this. It has to fulfill certain criteria. It can only have 2 seats. It can only go a maximum of 45 kilometers an hour or whatever. But it's a car.
It's a car,
and you do not need a license for it. It's called the sans permis.
Yeah, sans permis.
Without permit.
So basically, if you've been done a bunch of times for drink driving, you just end up going and getting yourself a sans permis, and you can still drink drive.
Sans permis, so without permission. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So you can, and they're completely quote unquote legal to drive. Now I know you only wanted to do the hour, David. So
you can drive them. You can drive them from 14.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, no worries. If there's, I can go over by a couple of minutes, chaps. If there's any kind of Q&A, anything else that you guys want to wrap up,
what I would like to do, whilst anyone wants to chuck a question at David, please chuck it in the chats now. John will monitor those. Thank you, John. But what I would like to do is for you to tell them exactly where they can find the work that you do.
Yeah, just you'll find us like we're very engaging on social media. So we're predominantly on Twitter at @org_SCP. You'll find us on Telegram. Just search for Stop Common Pass as one word, or type in t.me/Stop Common Pass. We're on Facebook. Just have a search for, just do the @ Stop Common Pass. You'll find us. We've been heavily throttled on Facebook, surprise, surprise, for probably almost the best part of 2 years now. We've only just
started on Facebook, and thank you for sharing our content, by the way.
No problem. You're more than welcome. I'll continue to try and do that for you chaps. And yeah, like,
we're actually
struggling
live
to
on
get
Facebook
kind of
right now. Hello, Facebook.
Fantastic. Yeah. Zuck you, Zuckerberg. And yeah, so struggling to kind of get past like kind of 2,000 even likes on that particular page, but we have a separate Stop Vaccine Passports page. StopCommonPass.org is the website. We're continuing to update that. We have some extra information. Of course, you chaps who listened into the Twitter space the other evening, we've been undergoing some smearing, some ad homs,
yes,
some troll attacks and whatnot. And it is great to be here to put a face to the name, to the organisation.
Do you know what? This is the thing. When it comes to things like that, all three of us have had it, right? And we've had it relentlessly.
And I know you chaps have had it probably a hell of a lot worse than I have.
But the point is, we are all sitting here. Here are our faces. We're talking. We're open. We tell you where we can find us. You did your Twitter space the other night, and your Twitter space, you were extremely transparent about your minuscule, I will say, sources of funding, just like ours.
Well, yeah, it was just exactly just to kind of cut in. It was just basically just to establish that we are community funded by people like yourselves, your viewers, your listeners. We are not like some other individuals or organizations where they will be approached by George Soros's Open Society Foundations and be given $150,000 in 2020.
Well, exactly.
I'm not going to name names.
So
we're not like that. We'll never accept that.
I do see a question for you. Have you got that there, John?
Maybe.
John, have you got that? John, have you got that question there?
Well, Spencer is asking if you know anything of the Carbon wallet that was proposed recently.
Sorry, could you repeat that again? The which one?
Carbon wallet.
The Carbon wallet, yes. So this probably refers to the Dutch interview from that absolute, excuse my language, I know it's after that batshit lady who was talking about that kind of using a lot of imperatives and kind of future-based languages, like you will have this and this is going to happen. And these people, I have heard of it, Spencer. Thank you. These people are absolutely nuts. This kind of goes back to the repurposing of the COVID status certification, the vaccine passports. They did not just. There's a lot of money. There's many hundreds of millions that governments waste. But this particular thing, it's been repurposed, and this is what it really seems to be pushed towards: decarbonisation, good citizen credits. I really do feel that these groups, like the WEF and whatnot, they really have bitten off more than they can chew with this kind of thing. I think it's thanks to our freedom right now to be able to disseminate like kind of so much information like over our platforms. You would need to be kind of like under a rock not to be able to see and to know what these individuals are trying to push with their green agenda, which is it's basically kind of nouveau communism. That's what it is. They're a bunch of very wealthy, inauthentically powerful commies, essentially. That's what they are.
Yeah. And on that note, I've just been asked to remind you about Gab by Shalini.
Thanks, Shalini. Yeah, that's something that we do need to fire up again. I know Shalini and lots of others stateside are big followers of Gab.
So we're recently on Gab as well. It's a difficult platform to crack, I find.
It is, yeah, of course. You kind of tend to go with the least resistance if you kind of build up a relatively good following on kind of, on Twitter or Telegram. Yeah. That seems to be the way to go. But thank you for reminding us, Shalini. We'll definitely kind of have a look at Gab again. Certainly looking at more kind of free speech, decentralized platforms as well. Using kind of, these types of decentralized like networks, like, Session, the Session app would use, LokiNet, and all of these ones as well. So there's some fantastic platforms out there. It's just that it's all, if you get on like about half a dozen to a dozen, it takes up a huge amount of time. This is very difficult to manage as well. So, but we do a reasonably good job between Twitter, Facebook and Telegram, but if we can manage more going ahead, we certainly will, and look at Gab too.
Well, I'll tell you what, I know you've also got a TikTok account, and despite the fact that it's a Chinese Communist Party propaganda tool, we're doing pretty well on there. Had over 500,000
That's
views.
That's good. How are you guys doing on it? How's it all going?
Well, we got over 500,000 views and 6,000 followers in the first month.
Well, interesting. That's that's probably some of the better. Well, I mean, I know you've had previous incarnations on social media, but that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's great work.
We've also had videos pulled off it and banned.
We have, yeah.
on TikTok.
Yeah. Like I said, Chinese Communist Party propaganda tool. But what I say to people is, if you can use it and get a message out to a broader audience, bloody well use it. Because, even if you get banned, maybe that short time you've made an effect on someone, or you've made an impact, and they'll come and find you somewhere else, or they'll just start thinking along the lines that you maybe help them think towards. And as long as we can, because I like, I love all these alternative platforms, David, I really do. However, we don't want to pin ourselves into echo chambers, right? We don't want to keep putting ourselves places where people just consistently agree, because then you're not affecting any kind of change. We need to have these conversations, these hard conversations, these debates. And yes, we've all had the trolls, all of us here. We've had it big time. All three of us have.
Especially when we talk about some new grassroots movements out there. I'm not going to name names, but especially when we kind of start speaking about who's spearheading that, and people they get quite offended by what you're saying, and they're like, "Oh, well, that's normal," that was 2 years ago that happened with COVID-19. So just like wipe the slate clean. Doesn't matter who's spearheading it. You know what I mean? You can't stop the working people, from organising. That's not. It's not the actual point. Again, not naming names. I'm not naming the movements. I'll leave it to you guys. You want to do it in the second hour or whenever you want to.
We're going to do something, but not tonight.
But the people who are spearheading these particular movements, one in particular, I will say. These are the individuals from various organizations and groups which should have been an effective opposition over the past 2 years. And they essentially facilitated and back the vast majority of UK government COVID-19 policy. They should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. And for us to turn the other cheek and just say, absolutely, get the fists in the air, fantastic. No, quite a lot of us, all of us, including your viewers and your listeners, we've got very good memories, and this whole thing of just forget about it. That is the exact thing. What the government wants.
But there's a massive difference between
after the.
I was going to say there's a massive difference.
Just forget about it and move on. They want us to do what Tony Blair said after the Chilcot inquiry.
I will forgive some of these people, right? I will forgive some of these people if they get on the right path, but I will never forget what they did. And there's a massive difference between forgiving and forgetting, right?
Well, that's it. I think people have got to be careful with unusually high levels of apathy. Pessimism, excessive pessimism, and learned helplessness as well. It's an absolute tar pit. It's very easy to get yourself kind of stuck in as well, and just to kind of simply brush off these individuals and their voting intentions, especially over the past 2 years, and kind of say, well, shrug the shoulders and go, oh well, that was then and this is now, and we're kind of getting back to normal. Well, buckle up. Let's see what happens over the next couple of months. You might find that these individuals spearheaded these organizations whom you want to forget in terms of their voting intentions.
Yep.
In terms of, wanting to, not wanting to, but voting to restrict your rights and freedoms, back as far as December the 14th, 2021, that they may do so again before
Absolutely.
the end of this year. Watch this space, but we will be there to remind you when they do that until
we will all be there.
home.
Don't you worry about that.
Yeah.
And on that note, there's another major change that we've made to the show, David. It's time to close. It's time to finish the show.
You're breaking up, Ben.
Yes, I know. Let's close the show, John. Before I do.
Yes, Ben.
Yeah.
Yep. So we don't do 2 hours anymore. We do a nice compact show, and this is it. So I do want to say thank you, David and John. Whilst
You're
I
welcome.
prepare everything, please close the show.
So thank you, one and all, for attending this After Dark with Stop, Come and Pass, and speaking to the wonderful, handsome, and erudite David Nolan. Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. Pleasure.
Good night.
Good night.
That's all we've got time for this evening, so it's good night from me. And it's good night from him. Good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Stop playing with my bust!
Good night, everybody.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
You're a what?
A pianist!
Mwah! Good night, everybody.
You have been a delightful audience. Still. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, my bottom hurts. Mwah! Good night, everybody.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Tim Bob.
Oh, I did love that hamster so. I took it into bed with me every night, you know.
Good night, everybody.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think I have to go now. I've been standing here for a very long time. I think the end of the show must have come and gone.
There you go. That's our solar system. You forgot Uranus. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. You've been very nice to work to.
Good night, Tim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.